Frontline won't be seen tonight, so we can bring you a very special episode of The Gen X Files. Welcome to The Gen X Files. I'm Jim.
I'm Adam.
And today's show is all about
Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
1978. Oh my God, man.
1978, yeah.
I have not seen this movie probably in 3 decades.
It's funny. I thought I had seen it, and it turns out I hadn't.
Really?
And it's now probably my top 10 of my favorite movies of all time.
It is in my opinion, the best adaptation of the story.
Oh, yeah.
And
the many adaptations.
Yes, and that's saying a lot, actually, because there are dozens. And not just TV, not just movies, but there's TV shows and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that whole Invasion TV show that came out like a decade ago.
But to me, this is the most frightening type of invasion.
Yes.
Like, I was going to say Attack from Mars. War of the Worlds. War of the Worlds totally frightening, but you have an enemy to fight, you know?
Yeah, you know what it is. You can see it, and you can do something about it.
And you can just distinguish between humans and aliens, and you have an actual enemy to fight. And with this, the enemy is ourselves. And the sneaky I love the explanation that Leonard Nimoy's character gives as, Dr. Kibner.
Yeah, Kibner.
Yeah. I love Kibner. He's just like...
He's so fashionable with that half glove.
Oh, my God. We'll get into that. I think Leonard Nimoy was just like, I got to do everything anti-Spock.
Yes.
And I get it. But when he explains, we've been sailing on solar winds throughout the galaxy, landing on planets and taking... And they're
essentially stripping them of everything
emotion.
and then moving on.
Yeah, it's basically they create these perfect quoties societies by getting rid of all love, hate, all humanity, basically. Anything that makes you human. And spoiler alert, if you haven't seen this movie, and we got to spoil this because it's the whole, point of it.
Yeah.
The aliens win.
Yeah.
And that last shot... that last shot of that movie has stuck with me.
Oh, yeah.
My sister and I talk about it all the time. When we were little kids, we would do the, point at each other and do the mouth thing and freak each other out because it was so freaky and unexpected. And that was the beauty of the 70s. And that's why I think this adaptation probably could only be made in the 70s.
Yeah.
Because it was the perfect time, the tumult and everything that the country was going through. Like you said, the Jonestown was not far removed from this, and I think the country was ready for this kind of freaky deaky story.
Oh yeah.
And the characters, there's no real handsome leading man. I mean, I guess Art Hindle would be the closest thing to it, but
he's not.
They
make him very evil very quickly.
Yeah, the bad dentist. But I mean, Donald Sutherland's Matthew Bennell he works for the health department.
Yeah.
Brooke Adams works for the health department. And again, I think this too is one of the first examples of, and this was of the time too, the 70s, people were getting divorced and people were their sexuality was awakening. The 60s was the awakening of the kids.
Yeah.
And the 70s was the awakening of the adults, or the reawakening of the adults that used to be kids in the 60s. But I think this was one of the first, friendship, romance things with he and Brooke Adams, where they, obviously love each other, but she's married.
Right. I got to be honest, I was a little disappointed that they had the kiss at the end, because part of me was really hoping it was just going to be platonic through the whole thing.
But that was the thing, man. I mean, it's like they loved each other. You could tell with their chemistry.
They cared for each other very deeply.
But they were in love. It's one of those things where you meet the guy after you get married, and that's the guy. And he's the work husband, which wasn't even a thing back then, but then it was. Yeah. And I think that was it, man. That was the last chance for them to have the freedom of humanity to make their emotional choices. And they made the choice to embrace each other. And express their love.
I understand. I mean, I understand.
To me, it worked.
Yeah. I'm not saying it didn't work. Part of me was, it was like, oh, okay. And it was very much at the end and very much like it didn't really matter because, they both ended up conforming anyway.
Right.
So,
but it was just the last gasp of humanity, in my opinion. But again, I think that, we've seen that this is probably the only time that it could be made because we've seen subsequent remakes.
I don't know if I totally agree with that because I think that in the original, I think the concept of conformity is ubiquitous across time.
Sure.
And I think that at certain points, especially in American culture, I think that there are times when as a society we can feel that it's like becoming this norm that people want to fight against.
Oh, yeah.
When the book was originally written in the 50s and the first movie came out, like after coming back from World War II, and like it was like, well, we all have to still band together. Like they were trying to hold on to that feeling of the how everybody was together in World War II and fighting. Yeah, patriotism to a degree. But I think that in the 70s it was the same way. Like I think by this point people could feel that the radical 70s were ending.
Right.
Because then Reagan came in and then literally it was just conformity across the board.
Sure. No, I totally agree.
But I think that this is a good example of that, of like trying to be, I don't want to conform. Like I don't want to be like everybody else.
Right.
I think in the 90s when the next version came out, and I think in the 2000s when the version after that came out, they failed horribly because that just wasn't a feeling.
It lost the intimacy. I guess what I'm saying about the way this version was made is it was a very intimate film with very non-action-y protagonists, not very Hollywood attractive, like...
Except for Brooke Adams.
Of course. I mean, look, I'm not saying all of them are attractive. I'm just saying
I mean, technically Donald Sutherland tried to make himself less attractive.
Yes, by giving himself
a friggin' perm.
But also the use of the pop psychology and the use of
sleazy
Kibner was. Kibner! But, I think that's what I mean, is that there was a perfect time in society with all of this stuff going around that really captured the zeitgeist of the moment of the 70s. I'm not saying that the overall theme and the ending, couldn't be made anywhere else. I'm just saying that this version
I think this was
good.
The most successful version. Sure.
But it was a lot deeper, let's say, than all of the other adaptations in terms of really making this a personal and just agonizing film, really. You're watching these four people that you really like, five, I guess. And,
four people you really like.
Well, you're watching these four people you really like fight this battle that that there's no way to win.
Yeah, it's inevitable that they're going to lose.
And I love how Sutherland's just like, no, we can fight it. And Brooke Adams is like, no, man.
Yeah. This can't happen.
I love your positivity, baby, but this isn't happening. Anyway, I guess what I'm saying is it captures this type of invasion, this invasion within. It does such a great neo-noir study of paranoia. And gaslighting. I mean, the gaslighting that Leonard Nimoy does.
It's crazy.
Incredible.
It's crazy.
And you don't know if
literally what you saw didn't happen.
Exactly.
It's like, well, I'm sorry. No.
Exactly. And back then, people were like, this is so unbelievable. But now it's just like, right. It's just...
I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying.
Yeah.
I think that's what's beautiful about the story and especially about this version, is that there are so many layers to it.
Right.
And the beautiful part of Philip Kaufman is that he let you figure that stuff out.
Exactly.
He was just showing you on the screen what was happening, and you have to do the homework to figure out why this is so terrifying.
I think what makes this film so effective is that it's entirely told through the lens of these four survivors.
Yeah.
There's no, switching over to the military. There's
you don't see the mayor of San Francisco or like
You don't even know really if it's happening anywhere else. I mean, we get hints that it is.
Yeah, I mean, phone calls that don't go through, but that also could have just been from their end.
Right.
Like, who knows? But honestly, by the end, it was obviously too late.
I love that we're as lost and confused as the characters, and we know just what they know.
Yeah.
I love when we're in the same boat. I don't find it as effective when we're jumping all around and we know the story that they don't, and they're about to come to something that we know that there's already going to happen and it's there, blah, blah, blah. I love the fact that we didn't see anything else, really.
Right. Yeah, we were learning with the characters and like having to try to figure out what the hell was going on with those characters.
It was a very believable, slow burn too. About well, this guy's different, and this guy's different, and this mass hysteria, and then Kipner trying to make it all pop psychology. Well, everybody, people are leaving marriages and bibbidi blabbity. And that was brilliant about it. Anyway, I could go on forever. Let's get into it.
I feel like it's interesting, and we will talk about this, but I feel like the original version could have been what you wanted, but the studios intervened.
Of course.
And made it not. They had to have a happier ending.
Oh, of course.
But, anyway, we'll talk about the ending and how iconic it is, and how everybody has seen this meme before it was a meme.
Yep.
Like, it is brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
It's funny, when I think of that shot, what comes to my mind is the Mad Magazine parody in the last panel of that, which is they did a great job. It was like Invasion of the Booby Snatchers. I don't know. But let's do it. Let's get into it.
All right, take yourself back. 1978, December 4th, Dianne Feinstein succeeds the murdered George Moscone to become the first woman mayor of San Francisco. She'll remain in office until January 8th, 1988.
And then she will remain in office until she dies.
Yeah. Yes, essentially.
I love Dianne Feinstein, but
yeah, she had her time.
Yeah, you gotta know when to go.
Yeah,
you gotta be a Biden. Be a Biden.
Yeah. No when to hang it up. No when to pass the torch.
Yes.
It's fine. December 11th, 6 men rob a Lufthansa cargo facility in New York City's John F. Kennedy International Airport, stealing $5 million in cash and $875,000 in jewelry, which has never been recovered.
That's crazy. And the Goodfellas, that's the robbery that was used in that.
Mm-hmm. I think we've talked about this before, and I forgot then, too.
Yeah, we have. And, that's the basic conceit, the Lufthansa
right,
robbery.
That they're robbing the thing. Oh, that's right.
And then De Niro gets real paranoid and just offs everybody.
Well, which is actually what really happened. All the people that they looked into mysteriously died.
Yeah, because the idiots were buying stuff. He's like, guys, that's my favorite part of I'm sorry for the speedboat, but I love the part in Goodfellas when the guy's like, I need my money. Give me my money.
Yeah,
and De Niro's just like, shut up. And then the guy comes rolling up in a brand new Cadillac, and he's like, what did I tell you? You're not supposed to buy anything. And the guy rolls up with the mink coat on his wife, and then you find him in the freezer with the mink coat. It's just so brilliant.
Yeah, but they really did in real life. There was only one person that was charged for this, and he was acquitted. And literally the other 7 people they're looking into mysteriously died.
Mysteriously.
Quote unquote, mysteriously.
Oh, God, I love that movie.
December 22nd, Chicago serial killer John Wayne Gacy, who was subsequently convicted of the murder of 33 young men and boys committed between 1972 and 1978, is arrested.
Bummer.
Yeah. If only he could have kept going.
Ugh, that dude, man. It's
so weird.
Well, you know what's so funny about this is, I'm a crime guy. I love me some crimes, and I'm fascinated with serial killers, and I've probably seen 1,000 documentaries on him.
Right.
But the truth is, you try to make this guy like this totally scary, he's crazy, creepy clown, whatever. He is such a loser. It's
amazing he was able to get away with anything.
But he's just such a weird, there's nothing scary or,
he's just a weirdo. I mean, he killed young children for a reason.
Boys.
He wouldn't have been able to kill an adult because they would have just beat the crap out of him.
And he would do that, he would do the handcuff trick. That's how he would get these strong young men subdued. Right. And then, what a sick son of a bitch.
Yeah, he was not a nice person.
No.
Hell of a painter, though.
Yeah, no, he did. God, I know somebody who has one of his paintings.
Oh, really?
And I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah, that's not cool.
Buy it to burn it.
That's weird.
That's what you do. You buy it to burn it.
Yeah. Maybe if he didn't, that would be a good social media video.
Yeah.
Get billions of clicks. So that same day that he was arrested, Invasion of the Body Snatchers is released in theaters.
Yeah, a lot of young boys never saw it.
Yeah. Ay.
My apologies to the families of the victims of John Wayne Gacy.
Yes. So, Invasion of the Body Snatchers starts with the 1954 novel The Body Snatchers, written by Jack Finney.
Yeah, Jack Finney.
The Body Snatchers was originally serialized in Collier's magazine from November to December of 1954, and then published in book form the following year.
Collier's magazine was like Time.
It was huge.
Like the biggest.
It was huge.
I think Stephen King actually.
I'm pretty sure he had some
published
short stories
stuff
in
in
there.
Collier's.
Yeah.
I don't think it's around anymore.
No, I think it ended in the early 90s, if I remember correctly.
Well, all magazines are pretty much done.
Yeah, I mean, what magazines still exist? The Smithsonian. That's the only one that I can see.
My folks get me the Smithsonian. It's really nice
It's a great magazine.
It is, and it's really it feels so foreign to hold an actual magazine.
It's so weird. It's so weird.
Like, don't know what to do with it.
I keep pushing on it, and this page isn't turning. I don't understand.
Like, these pictures don't move.
So Finney has had 27 short stories published, along with 10 novels.
Impressive.
The latest was in 1995, called From Time to Time, which was the sequel to his other famous novel from 1970, Time and Again.
Which one was that?
Time and Again is about a guy who goes back to 1888 to try to solve a murder.
Right.
And he ends up falling in love with someone there and then tries to stay. Decides whether or not to stay.
Is that the one they made the movie with Malcolm McDowell?
No, I don't think so. I don't know. I don't think this has been adapted.
Because there's a movie just like that with Malcolm McDowell, but he goes back to hunt Jack the Ripper, I think.
No, that's not this.
Okay.
I don't think so, because Grant, I just got it from the library. I haven't read it yet, so I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't do any further research on it. I do know that Stephen King said it was his favorite time travel story of all time.
Really?
So I was like, hey, I need to read that.
Well, that's a pretty damn good
it's a good endorsement. Yeah. Finney died shortly after finishing From Time to Time at the age of 84. The book was published, and 2 weeks later he died.
Oh.
Yeah. But he was 84. I mean, he'd been around for a while. Yeah, actually, well, and I know, I realize that sounds harsh, but before that book was published, I think the thing he had published before that was like 1981. Like, he hadn't published anything in like 15 years.
I'm just saying, give the guy an extra month to enjoy his success.
Yeah. Finney has had 10 adaptations of his work, including 4 adaptations of The Body Snatchers and 2 adaptations inspired by The Body Snatchers. And 2 is probably not entirely accurate because, of course, there's a TV show I didn't think about. And then God knows how many random episodes of TV shows and movies that are...
X-Files.
Yeah, that are, it's like, oh, yeah, of course, you know.
This rubbed off on a lot of folks.
Yeah. It
got its stink on a lot of things.
It hits people in such a way. Like, it's just that insane... I mean, even like the Twilight Zone, like the whole... The monsters are due on Maple Street, where it's literally just them barking at each other about who the alien is or who's the secret guy. Like, that's all from this book. Yeah. Like, inspired by this book.
It's just brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. It's so... I think, in my opinion...
Yeah.
Psychological terror is much more frightening than visceral terror.
Totally.
You know?
Totally.
And this nails that paranoia.
Yes.
Because who can you trust?
Yeah, what do you do? I mean, you literally can't trust anybody.
No.
Yeah, although I will say the aliens and invasions from the Body Snatchers weren't very secretive once they actually turned into aliens.
Well, once you got about 90% of the
man, hey man, just come join us. It's cool.
Well, when there's only 4 people left in the world.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
It's like having a couple of mice running around in the chocolate factory.
The first adaptation of The Body Snatchers was in 1956 and was based on the serialized story of The Body Snatchers from Collier's Magazine, because the book hadn't been published yet. The movie was adapted by Daniel Mainwaring, whose most famous work was his first novel, Build My Gallows High, in 1946.
I've read that.
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
It was adapted in the classic neo-noir Out of the Past, 1947, and then again in 1984 as Against All Odds.
Yeah, that's weird.
The original movie was directed by Don Siegel, who directed 5 films with Clint Eastwood, including the police thriller Dirty Harry in 1971 and the prison drama Escape from Alcatraz in 1979.
Both great films.
Fantastic movies. He also directed John Wayne's final film, the Western The Shootist, in 1976.
That's a really good movie. Ron Howard is in it. He's a young boy.
Young guy, yeah.
Jimmy Stewart's in it. It's basically John Wayne was dying of cancer at the time.
Yeah.
He died shortly after doing this film.
Yeah.
And he's playing the part of a gunslinger who's dying of cancer.
Wow.
And Ronnie Howard is like the guy that's looking after him or whatever.
Right.
And Jimmy Stewart, I think, is his friend. And then there's a guy that's going to come and try to, it was a great story about a man who lived past his prime.
Right.
Really well.
Okay.
It's not the best movie in the world, but I think it's a really poignant end to John Wayne's career.
Yeah. So the original starred Kevin McCarthy, Dana Winter, King Donovan, and Carolyn Jones in the 4 survivors as we see in the 1978 version.
I think King Donovan might have one of the coolest names you've ever had on this
amazing. So the title was changed to Invasion of the Body Snatchers to avoid confusion with the 1945 Val Lewton film The Body Snatcher.
Yeah, man. Everybody knows Val Lewton.
And The Body Snatcher. It would make over $3 million from a $400,000 budget.
Not bad.
That is a good haul.
Especially back then.
The 1978 adaptation happened because of producer Robert H. Solow, who bought the rights to the Body Snatchers novel in 1975 because he was a huge fan of the 1956 movie.
That's always a good sign, is the person who buys the rights is a fan.
Yes.
You know you're in good hands.
He paid $10,000 out of his own pocket for the rights to the novel.
This was 1970s $10,000.
So that was like $400,000.
Like $11,000. There's a lot of inflation in the 70s.
Yes. Solo had only produced 2 movies up to that point. Scrooge in 1970, a musical adaptation of A Christmas Carol starring Albert Finney.
That's a fun version. Have you seen that?
Albury Finney, as I wrote terribly in the script. I have seen that. It's really fun.
I love Albert Finney.
Albert Finney's great.
And he was great as script. He's a great script. I think him, George C. Scott, that MFer from the 30s is probably the best.
Oh, yeah. I don't remember
I forget his name.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought Finney did a great job.
So he also produced The Devils in 1971, written and directed by Ken Russell, starring Oliver Reed and Vanessa Redgrave.
Have you seen that?
I don't think so.
It's weird. Ken Russell is a really interesting director.
Yeah.
Lair of the White Worm. And
we'll be actually covering him next week. He directed Altered States.
Ken Russell did?
Yep.
Interesting.
It was his first Hollywood movie, which it's funny because the original director got fired, but we'll cover that next week.
Nice.
but yeah, he's a weird British director, did a lot of weird stuff.
Yeah, his movies are they're always entertaining because they're so weird and interesting.
Yeah. I'm very excited to cover Altered States.
Yeah, I love that movie.
So Solo had seen 2 of Kaufman's previous features, Philip Kaufman, the director. The Great Northfield, Minnesota Raid in 1972, starring Cliff Robertson and Robert Duvall, which Kaufman had written and directed.
Remember that one?
I've not seen that. The White Dawn in 1974, starring Warren Oates, Timothy Bottoms, and Louis Gossett Jr., which Kaufman directed.
I'm pretty sure I've seen that. I cannot tell you what it's about.
Yeah, I have not seen either of those.
I had a big period of Warren Oates fandom.
Oh, really?
Oh, man, I love Warren Oates.
Not what I was expecting you to say.
I think after I saw Stripes,
Yeah.
him playing the sergeant.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
And then I started when I got into watching Peckinpah films.
Yeah.
Then I really got into Oates, and then when I saw Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia by Peckinpah, that's when I was like, this is one of the greatest actors ever.
Actually, that's interesting because Sam Peckinpah is actually connected to Don Siegel because for 5 of his movies, before Peckinpah was a director, he was a dialogue coach on 5 of Don Siegel's movies.
Nice.
Weird connections
Very
in Hollywood.
weird. Yeah, it's weird that he was a dialogue coach.
Yeah, it's a little odd because I look at Sam Peckinpah and I don't think that he would be good at that. But
I think he'd be like a ballistics expert or a
squib
squib maker. I don't know.
In 1975, Kaufman wrote and started directing The Outlaw Josie Wales, but was fired shortly after production began due to artistic differences with Clint Eastwood, who was the star, who then directed the film himself.
Yeah, I think at this point, Eastwood had directed Play Misty for Me.
Yeah.
And he was...
Maybe one other movie?
Yeah.
I think there was something else in between.
And I think he had his opinions. And I think he... And look, rightly so. I'm not saying either of these guys
No,
right
they're
or wrong.
both really good directors.
Exactly.
So, I mean, you know.
And I would think it would have to be something pretty serious for Eastwood to pull this kind of...
Most likely, it was because of a woman.
Oh, really?
Yes. The enmity between Kaufman and Eastwood also stemmed from their mutual pursuit of actress Sandra Locke, who was then 32 and married to Gordon Lee Anderson.
Yeah. Well, Eastwood won.
Guess what? Eastwood won that battle.
He did. He won both. The Battle of Josie Wales and the Battle of Sandra Locke.
I went down a weird rabbit hole with Sandra Locke and her husband, Gordon Lee Anderson. They were married for like 30 years. The entire time she was with Clint Eastwood. They apparently never consummated their marriage. It was like neither of them were like gay or anything. It was just the fact that they were like soulmates, but not in a sexual way.
Weird.
And that was just the way they did it. Like it was like people when they got married, they were like society looked at people that lived together, a man and a woman that weren't married as weird, so we got married.
Oh.
And they just kind of did their own thing.
Hey man.
Super bizarre, but like whatever. Yeah.
She's an interesting person.
They loved each other,
Yeah.
like crazy loved each other. Like
Her
it was Gordon Lee Anderson.
Oh.
Like they were crazy in love. And apparently her and Eastwood, literally the first time they met, they had a date and then they had sex the first night. So like, there you go.
Wouldn't you if you were with Clint Eastwood?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Yeah.
Make my day.
Oh, I will. So Solo had found Kaufman's movies to be cinematically unusual and wanted to work with him, thinking he'd be perfect to helm a new remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah, the guy's visually stunning director.
I have not seen enough Kaufman movies, and after seeing this, I'm going to have to go through his oeuvre because he is so good.
It was brilliantly directed. I mean, the shots that they did added to the paranoia and the confusion and all of the weird distorted mirror shots.
Everything is so unsettling.
And it's meticulously planned. Yeah. Everything is done for a reason. This is what I love about a lot of films in the 70s and the experimental films and these auteur directors is that nothing is left to chance. Everything is planned out. All of these shots have meaning, and it's not just, oh, this would look cool.
Yeah.
It's like,
there's a reason for this.
Yeah. And that's what makes, that's what differentiates a master from just a decent director.
Exactly. Unfortunately, Kaufman had been hired to direct Star Trek Planet of the Titans, a movie that was going to be made before Star Trek the Motion Picture. Do you remember anything about Planet of the Titans?
No.
Here we go. You ready for this? The writers had a concept of sending the Star Trek crew through a black hole, sending them back in time, and teaching early man how to make fire.
That would have been 1,000 times better than Star Trek the Motion Picture.
What actually ended up happening.
The most boring movie ever made. It was funny. They had just painted the wall of the theater that I was in watching Star Trek, and I turned my attention and watched the paint dry because it was much more entertaining than watching them try to find feature.
So the original script was rejected, so Kaufman wrote a spec script, but that too was rejected, and then the project was canceled just 2 weeks before Star Wars came out in 1977.
Honestly, I really think that would have been an interesting Star Trek project.
It was supposed to be like they find the mythical gods and stuff. Like it sounded way more interesting than just going to try to find a satellite.
Well, it's a risk because it's Kaufman, man. He's not going to do anything boring.
No. Fortunately for Solo, this freed up Kaufman to work on Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Kaufman had been a fan of the 1956 film, which he likened to
great radio,
although he had not read the novel until after he agreed to direct the film.
I thought, well, this doesn't have to be a remake as such. It can be a new envisioning that was a variation on a theme.
Yeah. I mean, sure. That makes sense.
That's exactly what he did, too.
Yeah.
Exactly what he did.
And I do have to agree with him. I did rewatch the 1956 film before today just to get a sense of it. I had seen it before. I watched it in college. But he's right. It is a lot of people standing around talking.
Well, I mean, come on. Let's be honest. Most movies back then.
I know. But it was good. And, man, when it gets to the end, and he really did match the ending, like where Sutherland almost becomes the
pod person.
Yeah. Like he matched all that stuff almost shot for shot, and it is so good.
I mean, when he's like sitting out in the garden?
Sitting in the garden, and then it wasn't in a garden. It was like in a green or like a hothouse. But then like the whole him trying to kill the girlfriend, but then he can't, and then he ends up stabbing himself, which was so gross. But it was done almost to a T perfectly of the original film. Yeah,
you got to homage, man. You got to show your respect for the what came before you.
Exactly. Solo hired W.D. Richter as screenwriter to help them develop material for the film. Richter had 3 scripts produced before Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Slither in 1972, a comedy thriller starring James Caan, Peter Boyle, and Sally Kellerman, directed by Howard Zeif.
Interesting. I've
never seen that. Yeah, I was very surprised because I only think of Slither as the much more modern.
Oh, the James Gunn?
Yeah, the James Gunn movie.
I love that movie. I love it.
I'm not a huge fan, but I need to watch it again.
I saw that movie in a drive-in double feature.
Oh, nice. See, that would be fun.
And the cool thing about the drive-ins back then is when we were kids going to the drive-in, you put that chunky speaker on your window, and it's like, but in the modern day drive-in, it pumps through your stereo.
Yeah.
And at that time, I had the Infinity.
Oh, nice.
And it had this kick-ass stereo system, so it's almost like being in the theater.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so much fun.
It was when I, in my age, in my day, in the 80s, like it was, they still had the speakers, but you could listen through your radio as well. Yeah. But the speakers were so cool. It was just,
it sounded
like crap, but it was great.
Drive-in theaters are so much fun.
I know.
It's such a shame that they're gone.
There's only one left in L.A. Yeah. It's somewhere east of here.
I used to go. Yeah. It's strange, man. In the aughts, in the late aughts, I would go to the drive-in all the time. It was weird. It was a resurgence, I think, of that.
I think the only movie I really remember seeing in the theater, and I know I saw more, but was the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie.
You saw that at the drive-in?
I saw at the drive-in in Tucson, Arizona, with my grandmother. She took me, and her only complaint was, the movie's so dark. Why is it so dark? I can't say anything.
One of my first memories, and I'm really not sure if it's true, but vividly remember. I remember being in the back of the car napping as my parents were watching Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid on a drive.
Nice. Okay.
And it's such a vivid memory, but I honestly don't know if it's a true memory. It's really weird.
Well, I'm going to believe it to be true.
Me too.
So W.D. Richter also wrote Peeper in 1975, a mystery comedy send-up of 1940s noir films starring Michael Caine and directed by Peter Hyams.
It's pretty funny.
The movie failed so badly that it almost killed the funding that Hyams had for Capricorn 1.
That's a shame.
It was a huge box office flop.
It's a weird movie. It's definitely worth a see.
I want to watch it because I love 40s noir movies, and I love send-ups of movies even more.
Well, I mean, look, man, The Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid didn't do that great either, and that's a brilliant film.
So he also wrote Nickelodeon in 1975, a comedy starring Ryan O'Neal, Burt Reynolds, and Tatum O'Neal, and directed by Peter Bogdanovich.
Yeah, man, that's a weird movie.
Yeah, it is.
I like it. It's just, I don't know, man. We gotta do some of these weird 70s movies.
Yeah. Richter would go on to write, after Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Dracula in 1979, starring Frank Langella, directed by John Badham.
Yeah, that was a really good adaptation.
He also wrote Brubaker in 1980, starring Robert Redford.
Great movie.
Richter was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay for Brubaker, losing to Bo Goldman for Melvin and Howard.
Which is also a really great movie.
Yeah, I've heard. It sounds really interesting.
Melvin and Howard. It was Mary Steenburgen's first film, I think.
Okay.
Or the first one that really got her noticed. I'm pretty sure she was nominated. And it had Jason Robards playing Howard Hughes.
Yeah.
And he picks up this guy. This guy picks up Howard Hughes hitchhiking. Doesn't know who he is.
Right.
This is based on a urban legend.
Urban legend, yeah.
Brings him back, and then after Hughes died, he leaves him all this money.
It's like $170 million.
Yeah, and then everybody's like, "What?" And then they, try to.
Yeah, some like ranch hand from Utah, and he suddenly is in his will, and it's like, what do I do with all this?
It's really.
It sounds interesting.
Yeah, no, it's a good movie.
Richter also would go on to write Big Trouble in Little China in 1986, rewriting the original screenplay, which was a western set in the 1880s.
Crazy. Oh, God, love that movie.
Such a great movie.
Love that movie.
W.D. Richter is an amazing writer.
Well, he wrote some of my favorite films.
And he also directed and produced The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension in 1984.
I can't wait for us to do that movie. I have been eyeing watching that film for the last 2 years.
It keeps popping up. We have to cover it soon.
I'm like, I gotta watch it, but we're gonna do it for the show, so I keep putting it off.
Everything I keep seeing about it makes me want to see more of it.
Have you seen it?
No.
Oh my God, this is 100% in your wheelhouse.
I know.
It checks every box for you.
I know. I was 6 when it came out. It just passed me by. That's all.
You've had 40 years.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Jim. I know.
To correct that.
Yes. So the new Invasion of the Body Snatchers was completely adapted from the novel, as the original script written by Daniel Mainwaring for the 1956 adaptation couldn't be found.
Which sounds crazy, but remember, everything was hard copies back then.
Yeah.
There were no computers.
I read a whole bunch of interviews, and man, everybody, the three main guys, Solo and Kaufman and Richter, were so pissed they could not find the script.
Crazy, though.
They were so frustrated and mad because they were like, it was just going to be an adaptation. But then they were like, well, we got to start from the beginning.
Yeah, they could have had some poor PA transcribe it for them.
I mean, probably. But there was some brilliance in the script that I'm sure.
Well, sure. But, I mean, you can get that from watching the movie as well.
But also, better idea anyway. Adapt from the source material.
Yes.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, it worked out.
Yes. The trio opted to shoot the movie in color, which was Solo's idea, and move the setting from the small California city of Mill Valley in the book and Santa Mira in the 1956 adaptation to San Francisco.
They were thinking about shooting it in black and white?
Yeah.
In 78?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's how much Solo loved the original, because he was a huge noir fan.
Okay.
And
that makes sense.
But he was like, no, obviously it's the 70s and color is the thing, so... they're shooting color. And
you got to differentiate yourself. I mean, it adds more to making it your own.
Yeah. The change to San Francisco happened between Kaufman and Richter while Solo was in the bathroom. Literally, he was like, I went to the bathroom and came back, and they go, hey, we're going to set in San Francisco. And he goes, all right.
Whatever.
I guess.
I'm going to go back in the bathroom.
There actually was originally, they looked into it, there was a Mill Valley for real in the book.
I have a friend who lives in Mill Valley.
They were going to actually shoot the original in Mill Valley, but it ended up would be too cost effective.
Oh, yeah.
It wouldn't be cost effective. So.
Well, I think it was a brilliant stroke to put it in San Francisco, especially at the time, because that was the epicenter of counterculture. Brilliantly, it was the center of nonconformity, and alternative lifestyles.
And it was mostly Kaufman's idea, because he was like, well, you're in a big city where you can just be hidden among everybody, and it's like, how soon would you know that this was happening?
But I think because it was San Francisco, it was much more. You could figure it out easier, because if it was New York, people in New York just shuffle around anyway, right?
Yeah.
And I think it would be a harder time to figure out that things had changed in New York, unless it was, Adam's changed.
Yeah.
Or Jim's changed. But in San Francisco, a city that is so progressive and so counterculture, for them to conform into something, it totally stood out.
Oh, no, totally.
And it made it go faster, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it made the discovery and everything go a little quicker than it would if it was like Los Angeles or New York.
Yeah, I agree. So they cast Donald Sutherland as Matthew Bennell, or as he says in the script, Bennell, over and over again. Sutherland had been busy leading up to Invasion of the Body Snatchers, as he usually was. In 1976, he appeared in a supporting role in 1900, the epic historical drama directed by Bernardo Bertolucci and starring
Robert De Niro, Gerard Depardieu, Dominique Sanda, Francesca Bertini, Laura Betti, Stefania Cassini, Ellen Schweiers, Sterling Hayden, Alda Valli, Romualdo Valli, Stefania Sandorel, and Burt Lancaster.
It was a huge. I also went down a weird rabbit hole with this movie.
Have you seen it?
No.
It is epic.
The movie is 5 hours and 17 minutes long.
Yes.
And when it was theatrically released, he was contractually had to get it down to 3 hours, and they literally they locked him out. The producers locked Bertolucci out of the editing room and then did their own edit and then showed it to him, and he was like, I hate this.
Yeah.
And he compromised, and I think the version that came out ended up being like 3 hours and 5 minutes or something. But the only thing you can find now is the 5 hour version.
Which is the version to see, honestly. Yeah. Bernardo Bertolucci is a genius.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he has done some of the greatest films ever. And the cast is amazing, and it's a really great ensemble epic.
Yeah. I definitely am planning on watching it at some point. It's available on a bunch of streaming stuff.
You just got to
set
tack off
aside
like
4 months.
days. Yeah.
Sutherland in 1976 would also play the eponymous role in Fellini's Casanova, directed by Federico Fellini. The movie would be nominated for 3 Oscars, winning 1 for costume design.
Great. Have you seen it?
No. No. He was also in The Eagle Has Landed, directed by John Sturges, co-starring Michael Caine, Robert Duvall, Jenny Agutter, and Donald Pleasance.
Very good movie.
I've never seen that either. This is more. The more that we're covering Sutherland, the more I realize how bereft I am of his oeuvre.
In the 70s and in the 80s, man, they played all these movies all the time on the weekends during the day, and the stepdad didn't like sports.
No,
he liked guns and he liked movies. So we'd either be shooting or watching films. And so the one thing I will have to say about him, if there was a commie on screen. But say what I will about the old man, he did help facilitate my love of movies.
Nice. In 1977, he had a small cameo role as the clumsy waiter in the Kentucky Fried Movie, written by Zaz and directed by John Landis.
That is such a funny
It's a great scene. It's so funny. And he played the lead in The Disappearance, co-starring Francine Racette, David Hemmings, John Hurt, David Warner, and Christopher Plummer.
Okay.
I've never seen The Disappearance.
I don't think I have.
Any good or not. In 1978, along with the Invasion of the Body Snatchers, he appeared in Blood Relatives, directed by Claude Chabrol, adapted from the Ed McBain novel of the same name.
Have you ever read any Ed McBain?
No, but I gotta be honest, whenever I hear McBain, I just think of The Simpsons.
Yeah, same.
So
he's a good writer.
But I've heard he's a great writer.
Yeah, I've read a few of his things. My mom used to go to Costco and just buy like a bucket of paperbacks.
Yeah.
And so whenever I go down to visit her, I just grab like a big old bag of paperbacks and a lot of McBain books and stuff that I wouldn't normally read, but really I really enjoyed.
Apparently, Akira Kurosawa actually directed an adaptation of a McBain novel in the 60s. Like I think it was like called Blood and Rain or something.
Yeah.
But he went on record saying that the Claude Chabrol Blood Relatives was the greatest adaptation of a McBain novel he'd ever seen.
Gotta see it then.
It's high praise. High praise. Sutherland was also in Animal House, directed by John Landis.
Can I buy some pot from you? The funniest shot of him in that movie is he's got that sweater on that he's got his pockets in, and then he reaches up to get the cup, and he's got nothing on under. He's nude, and it's just like, whoa, okay,
hey there. He was also in The First Great Train Robbery, written and directed by Michael Crichton, co-starring Sean Connery and Leslie Ann Down. Listen to our episode on The First Great Train Robbery for more on that movie.
So much fun.
It is a great movie. It is a really great movie.
He plays Knuckles, doesn't he?
Something like that.
Yeah.
He's
a safe cracker.
Yeah. Yeah. He does.
He rolls his fingers and they all crack, 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 crack.
So during filming of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Sutherland was hit by a Volkswagen Beetle while filming a shot of Matthew and Elizabeth running. All that running they did. He fell onto the windshield and was able to see the driver saying,
"Oh God, not you!"
Like, can you just imagine being that guy? He's like, "I just killed Donald Sutherland!
Oh my God, I just killed the most popular movie star!"
Apparently, it was Sutherland's idea for Bonnell to have curly hair, enduring pink curlers twice a day until agreeing to undergo a time-saving perm.
Ugh, I got a perm.
And I got to be honest, you can see it in the film. I was paying attention. The beginning, they're very loose curls.
Yeah.
By the end, tight perm curls.
Dude, one of the worst decisions in my life.
Perm.
Was getting
I can't imagine anybody getting a perm.
And that was like 7th grade.
Yeah.
I wanted to. Well, okay, I've told you this before. My reasoning behind getting the perm was that I swam a lot. I loved to swim. I was like a fish in the pool. Okay. And I noticed that all my buddies that had curly hair, they could get out of the pool, shake their head, and everything was fine. Whereas I get out of the pool with my straight, nasty hair, it looks stupid unless I put some sort of crap in it.
You got to do the hair flip.
Yeah. So all I wanted was pool-friendly hair where I didn't have to worry about it, and I want curly hair like my friends.
I just assumed you wanted to look like old ladies.
Well, that was the thing. I remember going in and the woman being like, "Are you sure you want this?" And I was like, "Yes, I'm damn sure." And I get it. And I swear to God, man, I did look like a 65-year-old woman. I cried. And my mom and the hairstylist and even people in the thing are like, "Oh, I am so sorry." Because it was like a little old lady sitting in there. I was like cosplaying as Rue McClanahan.
Yeah.
Oh, it did soften into something. But, man, you don't want to be a fat kid with braces and a perm.
No, God.
You ain't going to get dates.
You're making yourself... You already have so much against you. What are you doing?
I was a masochist, I guess.
Yeah. Donald Sutherland insisted on performing his own stunts in the film's climax. His scenes in the Pod Factory were filmed without harnesses or nets. He was just running around the top of this warehouse.
Yeah.
It was the shot of the fireball erupting from the factory. Sutherland barely missed it. Although, did you notice an extra actually got hit and got severely injured?
Oh, God.
That's on screen.
Ah.
Yeah.
Well, at least he didn't die.
No, he didn't die. Despite being nominated for 8 Golden Globe Awards, winning 2, Sutherland was never even nominated for an Academy Award.
That's insane.
It doesn't make any... Not to mention the fact that the guy was in an average of like 4 movies a year, putting in amazing performances.
Really good work.
I mean, even up to the point of like the Hunger Games stuff.
Yep.
He was in his 70s and 80s, and he was still putting in amazing performances.
That guy was the best.
He received an honorary Academy Award in 2017. His response to receiving the award was to quote Jack Benny,
"I don't deserve this, but I have arthritis, and I don't deserve that either. Thank you."
If you can find it's so funny. He's so great.
He's such amazing, man.
Oh, such a great actor. Such a good person.
And an absolutely unique actor.
Yeah.
Voice.
Yes. Yeah.
Look.
Everything
mannerisms.
About him.
Everything about him was just so odd but comforting. I don't know. There's something.
It's amazing how he can just fall into roles. The second he showed up on screen in the beginning with him looking into the restaurant, I bought it that he was a health inspector. I was like, this is him for the rest of his life.
And a pain in the ass health inspector. Hey, this is rent turd.
It's a caper.
It's a rent.
It's a caper.
If it's a caper, eat it. Yeah, baby. It was just, and that's the thing. It had such. This is why this movie is so brilliant. It had such a benign beginning.
Yeah.
Such a benign character. Nobody would think about making a health inspector the lead of a movie ever.
No. It's so brilliant.
Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. Sadly, Sutherland died under hospice care in Miami on June 20th, 2024, at the age of 88 from chronic obstructive pulmonary disease.
Oh, these guys are getting Cop D because they smoked and smoked and smoked.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what happened to Nimoy too, right?
Yeah, Which he had stopped smoking, or well, we'll get to him, but he had stopped smoking for like 30 years.
Well, that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah.
Okay?
You should be.
Well, I haven't stopped smoking everything, but
it's the cigarettes will kill you.
Is that the people who continue to smoke don't get lung cancer?
Yeah.
It's the people that quit
because
that
they
get lung
literally
cancer.
just become chemicals.
Well, I don't know. I'm going to have to think about it.
All right. So they cast Brooke Adams as Elizabeth Driscoll. Adams was born in New York City to Rosalind Ney Gould, an actress, and Robert K. Adams, who was a producer, actor, and former vice president of CBS.
Nepo baby.
Yeah. As well as an unverified descendant of Presidents John Adams and John Quincy Adams.
All right, sure. I bet you.
Unverified.
Yeah, I mean, anybody
My
who's
last name's Adams. I have to be.
That's what people did back then.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. I have such a crush on this
Yes.
actor.
She was beautiful. She's absolutely beautiful.
Not just beautiful, but smart.
Yeah.
And funny.
Charming.
And she could
do
hold
that weird thing with her eyes.
That thing freaked me out, man. She can spin her eyes around. Spin them.
And she has one of the worst laughs I've ever heard.
Yeah. Poor Tony Shalhoub. But
No. It's not. It wasn't that bad. But it was just funny. She came off so down to earth and so natural.
No wonder he loved her.
Of course.
Another thing about making it in the 70s is this was the beginning of ERA and feminism.
Yeah.
And, not the beginnings, but this was we're in the thick of the of the movement becoming a national reality.
Right.
And she was a strong, capable person. She wasn't just somebody a couple of times he had to carry her around, but that's because she was almost potted.
She was drugged.
Exactly. Drugged or potted.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, she held her own. She was tough.
Yeah.
She was smart. And she was the one who pretty much figured it out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
At the beginning.
From the very beginning. Yeah.
It's brilliant. And a brilliant performance.
Yeah.
It's so heartbreaking.
Yeah. Her first credited feature was in Shockwaves in 1977, co-starring Peter Cushing and John Carradine, a B-grade horror movie about aquatic Nazi zombies.
Yeah, I stumbled into your room the other day while you were watching
literally watched, and it is awful. Oh my God, it is bad, except for the part with, Brooke Adams is fine.
Sure.
Although they didn't really give her a lot to do. But Peter Cushing, man, the first scene he's in, because they end up getting shipwrecked, and they're on an island, and there's like a resort, or broken down resort. And Peter Cushing is an SS officer, and he happens to be living there, and they're walking through the lobby, and all of a sudden they just hear a voice. And it's Peter Cushing, and oh my God, his voice is so amazing.
Lord Vader.
Yeah, it's just so good. It's so good. Anyway,
Peter.
He's good. The movie's terrible.
Cushing, most everybody knows Cushing from Star Wars as Grand Admiral Moff Tarkin. Right?
Moff Tarkin.
Moff Tarkin. He was in a ton of Hammer horror films and a lot of B movies and stuff. He's a great actor.
He's a fantastic actor.
But most of his stuff was relegated to B horror.
It was not good.
Yeah,
I mean, so it's not surprising he was in this movie.
Not good quoties,
yes.
but so much fun to watch.
Yes. And I recommend Shockwaves. The Halloween season is upon us. You should watch it. It's on Peacock. Watch it.
Watch it in double speed.
Yeah. In 1978, along with Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Brooke Adams was in Days of Heaven, Terrence Malick's second feature film, co-starring Richard Gere and Sam Shepard.
Oh, yeah. It was a good movie.
It's a good movie. The movie would be nominated for 4 Academy Awards, winning for cinematography. Malick would also win Best Director at Cannes that year.
I enjoy Malick. I think he's a very talented director, but I also think he is one of the most overrated directors.
I agree.
In cinema.
I agree. Although I did like was Thin Red Line.
Yeah, that was fine.
And granted, I've only seen it once, so I mean, but I enjoyed it. Adams actually challenged Donald Sutherland to a foot race during one of the chase scenes in Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Love it.
Because they were running so much.
Good God, they must have gotten great shape.
After Philip Kaufman yelled, "Cut!" They just kept going. And funny enough, Adams won in a dress and high heels, beating Donald Sutherland.
Nice, and he beat the crap out of her for showing him up.
I'm pretty sure she was also like 25 years his junior. So I mean,
really,
I think she was like 23 when she did this movie.
And he was in his 40s.
I think he was in his yeah, because he died in 2024 at 88. So I mean,
who knows? That's how things were back then.
Yeah.
Look,
look, it was not an issue in this movie at all.
I don't think of Donald Sutherland as an athlete.
No. What are you talking about? He was a track star.
But Brooke Adams
Except
seems
for
like an athlete.
his spinal meningitis that he had.
Pocketed it.
Yeah. Adams would go on to appear in Cuba in 1979 opposite Sean Connery.
Yeah.
We had talked about this before. She was in The Dead Zone in 1983, co-starring Christopher Walken, Tom Skerritt, and Martin Sheen.
God, we did a ton. Didn't we do Dead Zone?
No, we did not.
We haven't?
Nope.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Crazy. We have to do Dead
We have
Zone.
to do. We're gonna have to do another King adaptation.
Yes.
A King adaptation. I don't think we've actually done one yet.
We're gonna do we got to do 70s, 80s, 90s. We'll go through the decades, but man, this is one of the best Stephen King adaptations of all.
Yes.
And
it has one of the most horrifying scenes I've ever seen in a movie.
oh my God, yeah, with the scissors.
Just
Just even thinking about it.
God.
And Christopher Walken is so damn good, and Brooke Adams is so good. And the thing about it is so heartbreaking, just quickly, because his character gets hit by a car, goes into a coma, and he is engaged to Brooke Adams before this happens. Comes out of the coma years later. Oof,
Yeah.
she's with somebody. It's just heartbreaking. Johnny. Come here, Johnny. I want to tell you, Johnny.
It's just so sad.
What's up, Johnny? Poor Johnny.
So good. It's so good.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, man, especially with spooky season upon us,
Definitely.
get your hands on it.
She'd also make a cameo in The Stuff in 1985 in the Stuff commercial that airs during the movie.
I love that movie.
I love that movie too. It's so weird,
Such a great
but I
horror
love
movie.
it. I love it.
It's like one of the first corpo horror consumer horror
Yeah.
movies.
She also had the lead in the horror movie The Unborn in 1991.
I believe that was a Corman film.
She most recently can be seen in Mr. Monk's Last Case, a Monk movie released in 2023 opposite her husband, Tony Shalhoub.
That was weird. That was weird.
It's they've been married since 1992.
The more I thought about it, the more it fits.
Yeah. She also played 4 different characters over 5 episodes of Monk during the run of the show.
Of course.
It's so great. I love the fact that Tony Shalhoub and Brooke Adams are married. I love Tony Shalhoub. I think he's a fantastic actor.
Yeah.
I first saw him in Quick Change.
Yep.
Bluff Tony. Bluff Tony. Yeah. So good. So funny. But he's so good. And she seems amazing. I think they're an amazing couple. And I love them both to death.
Let's invite him to dinner.
All right. Jeff Goldblum was cast as Jack Belichick. Goldblum is from Pittsburgh and moved to New York City at 17 to become an actor.
He really feels like he's from Pittsburgh.
I love Pittsburgh. I don't know what it is about Pittsburgh, but I'm just enamored with that town.
Is it the Pirates?
I think it's the water, the river, the Steelers. I don't know. Mr. Rogers is from Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. He worked on the stage and studied acting at the renowned neighborhood playhouse under the guidance of acting coach Sanford Meisner.
Yeah.
Mr. Meisner himself.
Ugh.
Let's do some Meisner acting.
I hate
Yeah.
the Meisner method. I'm sorry, but yeah.
I'm going to go up, you go down. I'm going to go up, you go down.
Whatever you do, don't look them in the eyes.
Yeah.
But whatever you do, force them to look you in the eyes.
Now, I will say, whatever issues you have with Meisner, Goldblum's amazing in this movie.
Look, man, whatever works for you as an actor is fine. I have studied all of the major acting houses, if you will. And of course, I've taken a little bit from each.
Yeah.
But they all seem super effing pretentious. And a lot of it is just
Yes.
giving you
Yes.
credence, giving you some sort of substance when you're getting paid millions of dollars for make-em-ups.
Right.
But you have to
I
be
know.
like, it's a serious craft.
I just love how insanely aggressive Jeff Goldblum was from the second he appeared on
So
screen.
good.
It was just like, holy moly, dude.
Kibner. I hate Kibner.
God, that book, and he's just smacking it around.
Kibner. He's
Oh, man, you're at a party, dude. Calm down.
I love me some young, skinny Jeff Golbs.
He's so skinny. God, he looked like he was a concentration camp.
He is a stick figure.
God.
But young Jeff Goldblum, before, I love Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah.
But Jeff Goldblum has become Jeff Goldblum.
Yes.
And
yes.
He can still turn off the bloom and act.
Yeah.
But young Jeff Goldblum is a serious actor. He doesn't have his shtick.
Yeah.
There's still the Golbs there.
Yeah.
But you can see the work. And I'm not saying like a cruise where you can see the wheels turning. And, I'm a human. But you can see he is in the scene.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
He is present. Yeah. And his character is so acerbic yet so likable. And then it's a very difficult conversation.
Very difficult.
Not conversation. It's a very difficult combination to pull off.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. I was fully expecting him to be in this and be like, okay, he's good, but oh my god, he just steals the scenes as soon as he's on the screen.
Yeah, and the whole bit with his doppelganger in the mud baths, and it's played so well because how would you react to that shit, man? I think they did such a good job.
Freak out. Yeah. I wouldn't know what to do.
Exactly. You're watching first this just kind of blob. You're like, what is this? And then as it starts to take shape and it's you, he's freaking out. And then you got Kibner, Nimoy coming in and being like, there's nobody here. Just gaslighting the hell out of him.
So ridiculous. So Goldblum made his Broadway debut in the Tony Award-winning musical Two Gentlemen of Verona.
Ooh.
Goldblum made his acting debut in 1974 with Death Wish, the Charles Bronson revenge fantasy, as freak number 1.
Yeah, he was one of the dudes.
Yeah.
He was one of the dudes.
Although, just a few weeks later, his second film was released, California Split, a comedy directed by Robert Altman starring Elliot Gould and George Segal.
That's a good movie.
I also am so behind on Altman. He made his television debut in a Columbo episode, A Case of Immunity, as a protester.
Excuse me, sir. Protester, excuse me. You talk really funny. What are you talking about? Yeah, he was so great on Columbo.
Oh, yeah. Goldblum made another movie with Robert Altman in 1975, Nashville, as part of the large ensemble cast.
That's a great one.
I did not realize he was in that.
Well, everybody was in it.
That's true.
To be fair, I was in it.
Oh, yeah. I was in it, too, and I wasn't even born yet.
You were just a sperm.
Yes, I was a sperm. Yeah. He would work with Woody Allen and Annie Hall in 1977 as a party guest with one line.
Yep, remember him there.
Yeah. Goldblum would work with Donald Sutherland again in 1981 with the movie Threshold, a sci-fi medical drama about implanting the first artificial heart. I thought it was interesting because I was like, science fiction?
Yeah.
Yeah, it turns out the first successful artificial heart transplant wasn't until 1982.
Yeah.
So this was literally science fiction.
Right. But it was pretty close.
Yes. I mean, they had artificial hearts since like the 40s, but no one had ever actually lived with one. Yeah.
But they probably got a lot of good technical advice since it was about to happen.
Yeah, true. Between 1983 and 1985, he would be part of ensemble casts in some classic movies. The Big Chill, co-starring
Tom Berenger, Glenn Close, William Hurt, Kevin Kline, Mary Kay Place, Meg Tilly, and Jo Beth Williams.
The Right Stuff, starring
Sam Shepard, Ed Harris, Scott Glenn, Fred Ward, Dennis Quaid, Barbara Hershey, Lance Henriksen, Veronica Cartwright, and Harry Shearer.
Also, The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension, starring
Peter Weller, Ellen Barkin, John Lithgow, Christopher Lloyd, Lewis Smith, Rosalind Cash, Clancy Brown, Pepe Serna, Robert Ito, Vincent Schiavelli, Don Hedaya, Jonathan Banks, John Ashton, Carl Lumbly, and Ronald Lacey.
And Silverado, starring
Kevin Kline, Scott Glenn, Danny Glover, Kevin Costner, Brian Dennehy, Rosanna Arquette, John Cleese, Lynn Whitfield, and Linda Hunt.
I think it's a real shame that Kevin Bacon got the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, because I think Jeff Goldblum would be a good game to play, since he was in like 50 movies that had huge casts.
He was. And The Big Chill, not my cup of tea, but good movie.
Yeah.
Just don't really care about a bunch of middle-ageies dancing to old tunes and making food.
Hey, look at how nostalgic I am.
Talking about their deceased friend. But Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai, one of my favorite films of all time. And Silverado is my favorite performance of Kevin Costner and one of the best Westerns of the 80s.
Nice. Yeah.
Definitely we're seeing so different. And what's the director? Lawrence Kasdan. Who makes it. He did such a good job. And Kevin Kline is so good. Kevin Kline and Kevin Costner play brothers. And Costner is this out of control, crazy, funny, charming. It's the most.
It's so weird.
Oh my God, dude.
You would think the exact opposite.
He's laughing and goofy.
Weird.
And just the goofball. And
weird.
It's my favorite performance of his because he's just having so much fun. And he turned all of that off for the rest of his career.
It's funny because then Kevin Kline did the exact opposite, where he was just the weird goofball.
Yeah, well, he was still really good in that too. Oh God, we will definitely be
we'll cover Silverado. Yeah, We got to do
And
a Western month.
Buckaroo Banzai.
Oh, of course. In 1985, Goldblum would get his first leading role starring opposite Michelle Pfeiffer in Into the Night, directed by John Landis.
Yeah, I saw that in the theater. I was probably one of 6 people.
Yeah, it did not do well.
It's okay. It's a weird movie. He's a traffic control operator who's suffering from insomnia.
Yes.
He comes home to take a nap during the day, catches his wife having an affair.
Oh, yeah, that's
through the window.
I think I've seen this.
Mm-hmm. He doesn't confront her and everything, just walks away and goes to the airport and has this crazy adventure with Michelle Pfeiffer, who's like a diamond
some kind of diamond
smuggler
thief.
or something.
Smuggler, yeah.
It's not bad. I mean, it's an interesting, fun movie, but it just didn't click with audiences.
Yeah. In 85, he also had his second lead in Transylvania 65000, starring opposite Ed Begley Jr. and Gina Davis.
Yeah, that I cannot say anything nice about.
It's a guilty pleasure movie for me because it was one of those that was on TV all the time when I was like 10.
Transylvania
65000.
Yeah.
It was not a good movie, but when I was 10, it was hilarious.
We'll do it. We'll cover it.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
He's good in it.
Sure.
I mean, but
he's good in everything.
But it's not a good movie.
No, and Ed Begley Jr. Come on.
Goldblum has obviously had a long, fruitful career. We're definitely going to be covering him in many other episodes. He most recently can be seen in Chaos, playing Zeus, streaming on Netflix.
That's a fun show. Have you seen it?
No, I've not watched it.
I've seen like the first episode.
Yeah, it looks interesting. I do plan on watching it.
I love the concept.
Exactly. He'll also play the wonderful Wizard of Oz in the film adaptation of Wicked and in Wicked Part 2, coming out in 2024 and 2025. Veronica Cartwright was cast as Nancy Belichick. Veronica Cartwright is so good.
She's an amazing actor. Her performance, this and Alien are a little similar because she gets the relegated to the hysterical person.
Devolve into screaming.
The person that is the emotional reactor.
Yeah.
But have you ever seen Witches of Eastwick?
Yeah.
Her performance in that it almost steals the show.
Yeah.
As the prissy woman and who gets getting effed with by the devil. She is so goddamn good in that and so hateable. Yeah. Oh my God. Every time I see her, she's captivating.
Yeah.
And just one of those actors that I'd never seen her give a bad performance.
She started a career as a child actor, appearing in episodes of Leave It to Beaver, One Step Beyond, The 11th Hour, and The Twilight Zone.
I take it back. Her Leave It to Beaver was so-so.
She was like 8.
She was I do remember her on Leave It to Beaver.
I do not.
God, I watched so much of that goddamn show.
I do remember her from The Twilight Zone.
I do, and The Birds.
Yeah. Her most famous role was as a child was in The Birds from Alfred Hitchcock, which Jim just spoiled.
Spoilers!
From Alfred Hitchcock in 1963 at the age of 13. She moved into adult roles in 1974 with Inserts, a real-time film about silent film actors and directors failing to make it into talkies and thus turning to porn.
With Richard Dreyfuss.
It is the weirdest concept for a movie I've ever heard.
I've seen it.
I need to see this. I know we've talked about it before. We talked about it during the Alien episode. In 1978, along with Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Cartwright was also in Goin' South, a Western comedy starring and directed by Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Is it?
Yeah.
Curious to check it out. I don't know if I've ever seen anything that Nicholson's directed, so like I'm kind of curious.
You saw The Two Jakes?
Oh, no, you're right. I did see The Two Jakes. Didn't realize he directed that.
Yeah.
It was not a... Yeah.
It was a passion project.
Cartwright would hit it big in 1979 with Alien. That's where her career really took off after being an actor for 20 plus years.
That's how it happens, man.
She would subsequently appear in The Right Stuff in 1983, Flight of the Navigator in 1986, and The Witches of Eastwick in 1987.
Love that movie. I totally forgot that Jeff Goldblum was in The Right Stuff.
I don't think he was in it very much. I think it was it was also a huge ensemble cast. I mean,
he might have been he was probably one of the guys working the
you didn't
Mission Control.
Recognize him because he gained like 100 pounds.
Oh, okay. Good for him.
Cartwright appeared in a bunch of TV shows, earning 3 Emmy nominations, 1 for ER and 2 for The X-Files.
Yeah, she was great on both those shows.
So good on The X-Files. Yeah. I don't remember her on ER, but The X-Files. No, actually, that's not true. I do, now that I say that. She was so good. She's so good in everything she does.
Yeah.
She most recently can be seen in a couple episodes of Gotham Knights, the awful CW show that got canceled for 1 season.
Not to be confused with the awful video game of the same name.
Different awfulness. Same name, different awful. Leonard Nimoy was cast as Dr. David Kibner.
Leonard Nimoy.
Kibner! Nimoy's acting career began during his early 20s, teaching acting classes in Hollywood and making minor film and television appearances throughout the 1950s.
Such a weird-looking dude.
He's such a weird-looking dude.
He has one of the longest nose to lip.
Yeah, that like upper lip area,
you call that
whatever
thing?
it is. Yeah, I'm sure there's a name for it.
They
It's
should
huge.
call it the Nimoy because
It's called Runway Number 5.
he's just, and those eyes and eyebrows.
He's
just
an odd-looking duck.
Yeah, but it works somehow.
No, it totally works.
Totally works. It all mushes together to make a handsome man.
From 1953 to 1955, he served in the United States Army as a staff sergeant in the Special Services and Entertainment branch of the American military.
Cool.
Of course, Nimoy is most well known for originating the role of Spock in Star Trek: The Original Series.
Who?
Spock.
No, I know there's
he wrote some books about babies.
Yeah, there's
and
a
then-
Dr. Spock.
and then he became a Vulcan.
He went on a spaceship.
Yeah, spaceship.
To help them with space babies.
In TOS. Yeah.
Okay, makes sense.
He would appear in 79 episodes over 4 seasons. This was followed by 8 feature films, 22 episodes of Star Trek: The Animated Series in 1973.
Do you remember that?
No, I think they're all on YouTube, if I remember correctly.
I love that show. It's just, man, Saturday mornings were the coolest thing in the world.
I know.
We had Shazam. We had Star Trek.
This was around that time period when they were just turning every movie into an animated series.
Everything. Yeah.
Everything. This is like I'm sure it probably ran with the Planet of the Apes animated series.
Pretty sure there was. Well,
Yeah.
there was a Planet of the Apes series.
There was an animated series.
There was?
I have it. Yeah, it's
Wow.
in my giant Caesar head.
Okay, yeah, no, I remember that because I had the
it
toys.
only ran for like 13 episodes, but also you can find them all on YouTube.
I remember one of my most vivid Christmas morning memories was coming downstairs, and my mom had put together the Planet of the Apes action jungle playset or whatever,
Yeah,
their base
yeah.
thing, and set up all those Mego dolls, the
Oh yeah.
the dolls with like the little costumes and
Yeah.
stuff. I just remember she had set it up in a way that was just
Nice.
so enticing that I
Nice.
just couldn't help but play.
The show, and again, this is because I'm a huge Planet of the Apes nerd. The TV show was a continuation of the film series.
Yes.
But the animated show was set like thousands of years in the future where the apes have modern technology.
Right.
It is so bizarre. God, I love that series so much.
Yep.
He would also guest star as Spock on Star Trek The Next Generation, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Star Trek Discovery, and Star Trek Prodigy.
Really?
The animated series, yeah. The voice, yeah.
They just like stole his voice.
Apparently.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, he could not get away from Star Trek as much as he wanted to, and then he just embraced it.
Yeah.
That's with all those guys. I mean,
He was typecast. And in fact, Kaufman said of the casting of Nimoy,
Leonard got typecast, and this film was an attempt to break him out of that.
referring to the similar quirks that Dr. Kibner and his pod double had in common with Spock. Yeah, it was him trying to just do something else.
Well, Kibner, pre-pod,
Yeah.
although we don't really know if he was always pod.
Yeah, because I made that comment when we watched the movie. I was like, how would you know if he became a pod person?
Well, he was so gaslighting about everything. It just made me feel like he was kind of in on it. But pre-pod, he was so like, all right, we're going to love and we're going to this.
Oh, yeah.
And
When he just randomly grabs Jeff Goldblum and
yeah.
throws him up against the wall and
How did that make you
throttles
feel?
him. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a perfect pop psychologist.
Yeah.
He writes, as Goldblum points out, Kibner puts a book out every month, whatever,
Yeah.
pop psychology
Yeah.
of the day. And he really plays that. And he is. He's of course, Goldblum's super jealous because
yes.
it takes him months to come up with one word for his
Right,
poetry
right.
because he's such a tortured artist. But
The whole introduction of Kibner is so weird.
So
With the
weird.
Weird confrontation in the party, and like people kept coming up and being like, "Can we just no, we need to do that. You need to get away."
Well, it reminded me of like Est or those
Yeah.
those
Oh,
movements
yeah.
in the 70s about primal screams
Yeah.
and about
Yeah.
getting in touch with your emotions and these really stupid, ridiculous programs
Right.
that were pseudoscience, but
Yeah.
this kind of pop psychology stuff, and they played it perfectly. And he was amazing. I mean,
Oh yeah, he was really good.
unfortunately, he was so good at being Spock that people just want to see him as Spock.
Yeah.
And it's such a beloved character too. I mean, you can't get away from that. It's like
No.
being Uncle Sam or Smokey the Bear. You're an icon.
He's an amazing. I mean, he was He was some of the best stuff about the new movies that came out, the 2009 and the sequel. Like he's the best part of that.
Great director. Yeah. 3 Men and a Baby is a fantastic
I'm getting to that right now.
Sorry. Jump the guns.
Nimoy tried his hand at directing with the TV movie Vincent in 1989, where he also co-wrote and played Theo Van Gogh, Vincent's brother.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, not that Theo was the real name of Vincent Van Gogh. It was his brother.
Right, his brother who was desperate to have him be sane, so he could sell some stuff.
Right. He directed Star Trek III, The Search for Spock, Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, 3 Men and a Baby, The Good Mother, Funny About Love, and Holy Matrimony. This was all over the course of like 15 years.
Yeah.
In the early 90s, he mostly turned to doing voiceover for features and TV shows, but did make appearances in some stuff, like 11 episodes of Fringe.
Well, he was great on Fringe.
Yeah. In January 2014, Nimoy revealed publicly that he had been diagnosed with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, a condition he attributed to a smoking addiction he had quit about 30 years earlier.
Yeah, man. That's a bummer about kids. Don't start smoking.
Don't start.
Because even if you quit, it's going to chase after you.
Yeah. My dad has COPD.
Oh.
Because he was a smoker.
Yeah?
Yeah. On February 19th, 2015, having been in and out of hospitals for several months, Nimoy was taken to UCLA Medical Center for chest pains. On February 25th, Nimoy fell into a coma and died of complications from COPD at his home in the Bel Air neighborhood of Los Angeles on the morning of February 27th at the age of 83.
Oh.
Yeah. It's not just the fact that he was Spock. He just seemed like a really nice guy.
Yeah.
Like, all the, like, In Search Of and, like, all the stuff. He was willing to do so many things. He also had a recording career, which is super weird.
Look up the Ballad of Bilbo Baggins if you want to hear one of the weirdest songs on the planet.
It's super weird, but he released, like, 3 albums. Like,
he was a folk singer.
Yeah.
70s loved the folk.
He was so good, and it's just, yeah.
He was a guy who made the most of everything that he was given.
Yeah.
And definitely left a indelible mark on the arts.
Yeah, and his son Adam is actually a pretty good director. Like
You're only saying that because he's got the same name as you.
Yeah, everybody named Adam's awesome. All right.
Yeah, okay.
Art Hindle was cast as Dr. Jeffrey Howell. Dr. Jeffrey Howell. He was a dentist.
Okay. That's why dentists kill themselves, Adam, is because nobody takes them seriously.
Hindle was born in Halifax in Canada. His first major role was in a biker movie, The Proud Rider, in 1971, spawned by the popularity of Easy Rider.
Oh, there were a lot of biker movies.
Hindle worked with a real motorcycle gang, Satan's Choice of Oshawa in Canada.
Oh, yeah. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the first meeting of Satan's Choice here in Ottawa. Everybody, did you get your toques that have the Satan's Choice logo on it? Okay, everybody. We're having a bake sale. We're going to make some maple bars to raise money for the orphanage because we do a lot of charity work here at Satan's Choice. Everybody grab some punch and we'll talk about what's coming up in the next month.
I love the idea of a Canadian biker gang named Satan's Choice. That is literally how I imagined it.
Well, that was a recording from one of the meetings, actually. They went undercover and they're like, why are we even here?
Yeah, what is it? We're not even, there's nothing to do. They're just baking. Are you putting drugs in the bakes?
No, just some back bacon, eh? A little too much cholesterol, eh? That might hurt you. Don't eat too many, okay? Give you a bellyache.
Well, I think I'm going to be customer number 1.
Okay. Hail Satan, everybody. Okay, welcome to Satan's Choice.
Don't forget, we are Satan's Choice.
Did you all get your welcome packets with your beer koozie? We like hitting the root beer here. We don't like hitting the hard stuff. That's how we got to be Satan's Choice, you know.
So Art Hindle would also appear in Black Christmas in 1974 from Bob Clark.
That's what I remember him most from.
Oh, he's so good. I love that movie so much.
He's kind of not in this very much.
No,
he's,
no.
Kind of in the shadows and in bed.
Yeah.
But he does make the most of his performance. And that whole scene with the cops, and they're like, is she coming back?
Well, okay, I trust you.
Fine. It was just so tense.
Yeah, it was so good. Him working with Bob Clark would lead to a part in Porky's in 1981 and Porky's 2 the next day in 1983, both directed by Bob Clark.
I don't remember him in Porky. He must have been a teacher or something.
Yeah, I think he was one of the teachers, if I remember correctly. He worked with David Cronenberg in The Brood in 1979.
Actually, I think he was like the older boyfriend of somebody.
I don't remember.
Who knows?
His character's name was John something, but I don't remember.
We're going to have to cover Porky's.
I have not seen Porky's in a long, long time.
No, I don't think since I was a teenage boy in my...
I'm pretty sure I was probably 12 when last time I saw Porky's. He's mostly appeared in Canadian films, but has made guest appearances in a ton of American TV shows. He most recently can be seen in Home Free, a Canadian drama that was released in 2024.
Yeah, if you saw him, you would immediately recognize him.
Yeah, and he was really good in this.
Yeah, he's a great character.
I mean, it's a very small part,
yes.
but he made the most of it.
An important part, and he did a solid job.
Yeah. Lalia Goldoni was cast as Catherine Hendley.
She was the one that first was complaining about her husband, right?
Yes.
He's not the right person.
Yes.
She's the one that Nimoy grabbed and was like...
Yeah, and was like, you got to be careful. Yeah, or whatever.
Hugged them both.
Weird pop psychology.
Quit touching me, Nimoy.
Goldoni made a name for herself when she met John Cassavetes and then acted in his groundbreaking feature debut Shadows in 1959.
She was remarkable in Shadows. And Shadows, if you haven't seen
I've not seen it.
Cassavetes' work is amazing. It's very difficult to watch sometimes because it is so absolutely raw and real.
Yeah.
And he had this stable of actors that he worked with that were impeccable, got what he was doing, and nailed it. And she was one of them.
In 1974, she played the best friend of Ellen Burstyn's character in Martin Scorsese's feature film Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, gaining further acclaim.
It's so weird to me that movie, which is a really great movie, by the way, led to the sitcom Alice.
Weird.
Kiss my grits.
Yeah, it's weird. It's super weird.
All right.
In 1973, she appeared in the historical drama The Day of the Locust, starring
Donald Sutherland, Karen Black, William Atherton, Burgess Meredith, Richard Dysart, John Hillerman, and Geraldine Page.
I have not seen this adaptation of The Day of the Locust. I love the book.
Oh, yeah.
The book is so good.
It is great. This is not bad. John Hillerman from Magnum P.I. is...
Oh, yeah. That's
Higgins.
right. It's got a great cast.
Really great cast.
It's a great book. I'm going to have to find this and check it out because I love the book.
Well, William Atherton is from Die Hard, right?
He's the reporter in Ghostbusters.
Yeah. He's the jerk.
He's usually the jerk. I don't know if he's a jerk in this.
He's a dickless wonder, apparently.
That's true. Her last film was in 2012 with The Devil Inside, the found-footage horror possession movie.
I didn't see that one.
She retired from... I remember seeing posters for it, but it was a found-footage movie, and at that point, I just didn't care anymore.
Oh, yeah. I do not like that genre.
Yeah. Goldoni unfortunately died at the Actors Fund home in Inglewood, New Jersey on July 22nd, 2023 at the age of 86.
Always breaks my heart when they die in the home.
Well, she hadn't worked in like 10 years, 11 years. Like, it's just...
It doesn't mean somebody
sad.
couldn't love her, Adam.
No, I know, but I mean, it's just... I just can't imagine that last decade where
Yeah.
it's like, well, I can't get work anymore. Now I'm in a home, and like, oh, it's just sad.
Well, maybe she had friends there. And it
I
was a
hope
good
so.
time.
I hope so.
They put on little skits and shows and stuff. It's the actor's home.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Some cameos in Invasion of the Body Snatchers include Kevin McCarthy as the Running Man screaming,
"You're next!"
This was a nod to the character he played in the 1956 adaptation.
He's such a great actor.
Oh, he's so great.
He plays a lot of like heavies and bad guys and weirdos.
So good. Yeah. Just so good. While they were filming the scene that he was in the Tenderloin in San Francisco, Kaufman recalls that a naked man lying on the street awoke and recognized McCarthy.
Okay.
After learning that they were filming the remake of the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers, he told McCarthy that the original film was better.
How did he know?
Because he's a naked homeless man.
We were in the middle of shooting the film and we got our first review.
Yeah, it was super weird, but, you know.
Yeah, original's better. You like my wiener?
San Francisco. Don Siegel was cast as the taxi driver that they tried to use to get out to the airport to get away. Yeah. Siegel directed the original film and appeared as a favor to Kaufman.
Oh, nice.
During the taxi ride, Donald Sutherland and Brooke Adams' nervousness is genuine. Don Siegel had lost much of his vision and was driving through the dark streets of San Francisco without his glasses.
They couldn't have done a picture rig?
They did not.
Well, it was all cinema verite back then.
Yeah. Kaufman himself appears twice in the film as a man wearing a hat who bothers Sutherland's character in a phone booth, and the voice of one of the officials Sutherland's character speaks to on the phone.
Okay.
I'm not sure which one it was. There were two male voices he talked to that could have been...
Yeah, well, there's a few.
Yeah.
He called a lot of people.
He did. The whole long, weird... yeah.
That's why the invasion happened, because it took 45 minutes to use that rotary phone to make one call. That phone that Brooke Adams had in her house was so weird.
With a weird retractable, which, by the way, again, the brilliance of Philip Kaufman, because that shot, it seemed unnecessary, but the cord slowly pulling back into the wall was so unsettling.
Yep.
So good.
He did such a great job. Yeah.
Yeah. Robert Duvall is also seen briefly as the silent priest sitting on a swing set in the opening scene.
So creepy. So weirdly
with
creepy.
some kids just swinging and he's staring at them. It's just weird.
Priest with kids is always a little creepy.
Yeah.
Especially on swings. You're swinging.
Duvall, who had previously worked with Philip Kaufman on the Great Northfield, Minnesota raid, happened to be in San Francisco at the time of filming and shot his scene for free.
You want to be in the movie? I'll put you in a priest outfit. Put you on a swing.
Kaufman appreciated it so much he gave him an Eddie Bauer jacket as a gift.
Yeah, thanks for showing up. Here's an Eddie Bauer jacket.
It's just so weird. I love the fact that he's in the first 5 minutes and then he's gone. And that's it. It's so bizarre. You're like, oh, this movie has Robert Duvall in it. No.
I was like, I don't remember Robert Duvall being in this film.
So McCarthy and Siegel actually played a role in shaping the film's twist ending.
Oh, can I just mention one last person?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
There's a guy, an actor called Albert Nalbandian. I believe he's an Armenian actor. He plays the rodent man, a very off-putting character. But he is also he's got 3 mustaches, one on his face, 2 over his eyes. But we just wanted to mention him because he also had a really memorable part in So I Married an Axe Murderer.
Yes.
Listen to our So I Married an Axe Murderer
also
show.
set in San Francisco.
He's like a San Francisco feature. But
yeah.
he was the guy that comes into the deli and he's like, this is what I want. No more, no less. 1 inch, prime cut, no more, no less.
It's so great. And he's great in this. He's the guy that refuses to eat the rat turd.
Yeah.
And then finds the rat and brings it in and is like, oh, we can reopen. We found her. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's so great. He is great. Yeah. Albert what's his name?
Albert Nalbandian.
Nalbandian.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rodent Man.
They couldn't make him like the head of the restaurant or something. They had to call him Rodent Man.
Well, he wasn't the head. He was like one of the workers.
He was which, by the way, as you pointed out when we were watching, he comes out after finding the rat turd. Sutherland comes out, and the workers have thrown a wine bottle at his car, breaking his windshield.
And just standing there like, you gonna do something about it?
Yeah, what are you gonna do? Give us less of a grade? I mean, what? It's like, all right. I mean, maybe because they had to shut down, they were mad.
Dude.
Maybe they all lost their jobs.
You don't remember the restaurant wars of San Francisco in the 70s when
it was like
the health department versus they were throwing stuff all the time, man.
It was crazy. It was just crazy. But it worked so well because the whole rest of the movie, every time he drove, I was like, how in the hell can you see out that window?
Yeah, it was so great to have that broken window the entire time.
Good.
It added to the unsettling. Everything was done to make you kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And you were. It was brilliantly done.
So good. So McCarthy and Siegel played a role in shaping the film's twist ending. Before filming, Kaufman had sought out Siegel for advice, and while the two were talking in the latter's office, McCarthy happened to come in. The topic eventually came around to the original film's ending, which they regarded as pat. The original ending in the movie, I don't know how much you remember the original movie, but there's essentially like a bookend, an opening and a close, where he goes running into a police station and he's like, they're coming, and then the whole movie is a retelling of what happened, and at the end, he's proven right. Like, somebody comes in and is like, there was a truck full of pods, and they were like, oh, we believe you, and supposedly they stop it.
Right.
That is not what Don Siegel wanted. That is not how he wrote it or how it was written and how he wanted it to be. But the executives were like, no, you got to do this because we need to have a happy ending.
You weren't allowed to have dystopian endings back then. It just didn't happen.
It was very rare.
It was part of the code.
Rare. Yeah.
And if you did it, it was outside of the studio system.
There were some noir movies that got kind of weird and got very depressing endings.
But that was a different thing. Plus, they were adaptations mostly of Chandler books.
Yeah.
The noir stuff, because that was a darker, twisty kind of thing.
Yeah.
But any kind of like big thing, you couldn't show
America
losing.
I know.
But you could show individuals losing.
And obviously Siegel was like, okay, like, you guys are paying me, so, whatever.
Well,
but he always wanted to have a darker ending.
Sure.
So after Kaufman came up with the ending that ended up being in the movie, with spoiler alerts, with Sutherland essentially being one of the pod people and the Earth losing.
It's such a brilliant scene too, because there's the whole climax, everything going down, and he runs away, and you don't see what happens, and then it cuts to what you think is Sutherland trying to maneuver his way in the new society and trying to fit in and not make any waves. You look at it again, knowing you can tell that there is no emotion. He's just observing.
Yeah.
He's just seeing, almost like seeing things for the first time through the eyes of this alien.
Right.
And then, man, that last shot.
So after he came up with the ending, he kept it a secret from everyone involved in the filming except for the screenwriter, W.D. Richter, and producer Robert Solo.
Brilliant.
Sutherland was only informed of the scene the night before they shot it.
Oh, nice.
Kaufman is not sure Cartwright even knew until Sutherland turned around to point and shriek at her.
Oh, her reaction was she's like, oh no.
Yeah. The studio executives only learned of it when a cut was screened for them at George Lucas's house.
Hey, you guys want to come over and watch a movie at my house?
But that is the brilliance of Philip Kaufman. You get around the studio by not telling them.
No, and you show it in Lucas's house, and who is on top of the world right now.
Hey, this is it. It's brilliant.
You got Lucas on your side telling the studio, this is what you gotta do.
Yeah. Ben Burtt of Star Wars fame designed the soundscape for the film.
He is probably the best in the business.
Oh, yeah. Natural sounds that mix with the city's more industrial noises give way to just the latter as the film progresses. Among them are the grinding noises of garbage trucks, a common urban sound that slowly becomes horrific as it becomes clear that most of what they are processing is the discarded husks that remain of pre-pod human bodies.
Yeah, just their weird, dusty fur balls.
So many shots of that. I had known this beforehand, so I was like, okay. But very early on, I mean, within the first 10 minutes, I believe there's a shot of a garbage truck with them being full.
Yeah.
And it happens like 5 or 6 times throughout the movie. It's so creepy.
Well, it gets increasingly more full. Because I think the first shot is when Dr. Jeffrey takes his husk out after he's the first to change.
The truck is full.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
But they just keep showing shots of it. Like every time there's a garbage truck, it's just more and more. And this is the brilliance of this movie. Even to the point when... after he goes to the office, the health office, Sutherland goes to the health office, and he's with Brooke Adams, and they're walking, and there's just cameras panning along following them, and there's this weird shot behind the frosted glass of a guy just staring at them. Mm-hmm. It's so creepy.
Very creepy. A lot of just unsettling moments that just kind of happen in the background, and if you're not paying attention, you might miss. Right.
Burtt also designed the shriek when pod people see a surviving human, a sound Kaufman said was composed of many elements, including a pig's squeal.
Yeah.
It's so creepy.
I can't even do it. It was so... my sister and I have such vivid memories of my sister and I doing that to each other. It would just be like we'd turn and be like, hey, sis, and she'd just turn and go, Bree! Or she'd be like, hey, no, I'd just turn and go, blah! Oh, we freaked each other out a lot.
All the special effects were created live for the camera. The scene at the beginning where the pods travel through space from their dead homeworld to San Francisco was one of the simplest. Kaufman recalled.
I found some viscous material in an art store. I think we paid $12 for a big vat of it, and then we dropped it into solutions and reversed the film. Easy peas.
It is so good. It looks so cool.
Yeah, it is so wispy and weird.
Just weird.
That's also what I love about these films in the 70s is the practical effects. You had to be so creative.
Oh, yeah. Even at the very beginning when the flower opens up and like they just suddenly start to spread.
And
like
the sticks come in.
So good.
It's just like, with this and The Thing, you just have all these movies with these just amazing practicals that stand the test of time today. I would say the pods look pretty good.
Oh yeah,
it looks a little fake when he smashes the face, but it's still gross and unsettling.
It's still, I don't want to look at it.
But I also attribute that too, that they're just husks. They're not completely, if they're not totally.
They're
human.
not. Yeah, the outside is more formed than the inside.
Exactly.
Yeah. The dog wearing a mask of the banjo player's face included a hole in the mask through which the creature appeared to lick itself. So creepy.
It was creepy.
Creepy.
There was a couple of shots that were really creepy, and then a couple of shots were like, they threw a mask on a dog.
Yeah. Speaking of the banjo player, the banjo playing and the singing was done by Jerry Garcia of the Grateful Dead.
Far out, man.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh, yeah, man.
And I just want to nod, I didn't include this originally, but Michael Chapman did the cinematography for this movie.
Oh, my God.
Absolutely brilliant cinematographer.
He did Taxi Driver.
Yeah, he did Raging Bull. He did Shoot to Kill. He did Scrooge. He did Quick Change.
Yeah.
He did The Fugitive. He was a camera operator on The Godfather and Jaws.
Yep.
I was like, I can't read my own handwriting. He was a camera operator on Jaws and The Godfather. He directed All the Right Things, or All the Right Moves. Not All the Right Things. All the Right
Things. No, he was a
brilliant
cinematographer. Yeah, and he was the guy for those down and dirty New York movies, and working with Scorsese really brought him a lot of cred, and then everybody just wanted to work with him because, especially after Raging Bull, which was just so beautifully shot, and then this movie too, the shots. I know it sounds stupid and cliche, and people say it all the time, but the camera was another character.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And every shot was meticulous. Every shot had meaning, and they were creepy and weird, and it added to this. They really put you off your seat a bit on this. They wanted to keep you on the edge. They wanted to keep you unsettled. They didn't want you to ever kind of sit back and get comfortable in this movie. There was always something there to keep you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And a little bit and give you some anxiety and shit too. It was so well put together. One of the best neo-noir sci-fi thrillers I've ever seen.
I would say that this is probably the best color noir movie I've ever seen.
Okay, I agree.
It is done so well. Yeah. The shadows are used so well.
Yep.
Like, it is so moody, and just every shot, it means something. Mm-hmm. Allowing the camera to essentially be the observer, be you as the audience, is the most brilliant way to get into a movie, and it is done so well in this movie.
And it works so well because it's such an intimate portrayal with only really 4 people being the focus of this film.
Yeah.
A lot of other people in it, but these are the 4. And he does a really good job of isolating them.
Yeah.
And like the scene in the apartment where Jeff Goldblum is in Cartwright's lap and she's playing with his hair.
Yeah,
and Brooke Adams is on the bed, and then Nimoy.
Even the opening where Art Hindle and Brooke Adams are like together, and he goes in and she's talking, like they're sitting on the bed, but the camera is like in another room.
Yep.
And it's like you don't even really see him. There's kind of a reflection, and then he puts the headphones on, but it's like you're just being this weird observer.
Exactly.
It's so good.
We are experiencing something that we shouldn't be. We're peeping.
Yes.
He's showing us that we are watching what's happening, and that we are a uninvited observer, if you will. And it just carries over the film. I think that's what separates an auteur from a director, is a guy that has everything planned out. It's like literature, like the leitmotifs, and everything means something. And unlike Kibner, who just puts out a book every week, this is a lot more Jack Belichick.
Yeah, I agree.
Picking the word very carefully.
So the film score was composed by Denny Zeitlin. It was the one and only film score that Zeitlin would write.
It was great.
It was fantastic. He is an accomplished jazz pianist, composer, and clinical professor of psychiatry at UC San Francisco.
Very cool.
Weird dual roles this man has had his entire life.
It was a really industrial.
It was good.
Soundtrack.
It was really good.
Yeah, using a lot of just city sounds.
He used a lot of synthesizers along with his piano scores, to the point where he talked about how, while he was writing the composition for this, the synthesizers would overheat, and you have to wait a day to work on them again because they would literally fry.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Since 1963, he has recorded more than 100 compositions and was a first-place winner in the Downbeat International Jazz Critics Poll in 1965 and 1974. Between 1968 and 78, Zeitlin integrated electronic keyboards, synthesizers, and sound-altering devices with acoustic instruments, working in multiple musical genres.
I'm gonna go through the records and see if I have any.
I bet you probably do.
Probably.
I wouldn't be surprised.
In my jazz collection.
Yeah. The results were first heard in 1969 when Zeitlin composed and performed music for the Jazzy Spies sequences on the first season of Sesame Street, featuring vocal overdubs by Grace Slick.
That was so cool.
So interesting.
Yeah, Sesame Street was just rad back when we were kids.
Yeah.
Because it was made by adults, and it was
like, well, what, we can just get away with whatever.
Yeah, there's no pandering. It was just so good.
His score for Invasion of the Body Snatchers was the culmination of this whole 10 years, which is, I believe, why it was the only score he did.
It was probably really hard for him too. I mean, that kind of guy,
being confined and I'm sure,
but also the amount of passion that he put into it. This isn't a guy that's just gonna push out a, beep, beep, beep,
oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
So like that hack John Williams.
So the movie would gross $25 million, which in equivalence of today's terms is about $140 million.
Not bad.
So it did well. Kaufman believes the film may have seemed timely when it came out, since the Jonestown mass suicide had occurred a month earlier and still dominated the news.
That was a case of a lot of people from San Francisco who were looking for a better world and suddenly found themselves in Poddom, and it was fatal. It could not have been a more pointed reason for watching the movie.
Yeah. I mean, it's... Yeah. Everything we talked about at the beginning is summed up in that. It's like it is people trying to conform, but not wanting to conform, and it was a weird time.
There were a lot of cults. There were a lot of people searching for something. The religious institutions weren't as powerful as they were. People were leaving the church, getting divorced. Everything was changing.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people got away from religion, but they were still searching for something spiritual. The whole thing was like, I'm not a religion, I'm a spiritual person.
Right.
There was tons, like crystals became big.
Yeah, well, and even
yoga
in the movie with Cartwright talking in the mudroom about like that book you got to read. It's like, that was a huge bestseller.
Everybody was looking for enlightenment outside of the normal religious confines. And so a lot of these cults came up. You had the Manson cult.
Manson family.
You had the Moonies.
Oh, yeah.
And you had the Jonestown folks. You had a lot of people to the point where there was a job created for deprogramming people from cults.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, is people were so desperate to belong, or so desperate to believe in something, or so desperate to have hope or something that gives their life meaning.
Yeah.
That they would succumb to these con artists and these cults and stuff. And it was dangerous business because people didn't really have experience with that before.
Yeah.
On such a mass, big, such a scale, grand scale. So it was a very difficult and confusing time for a lot of folks.
Well, it's a good thing that doesn't happen anymore.
Oh, yeah. Cults are gone. Everybody's right back in the church.
The film received mostly positive notices. The New Yorker's Pauline Kael was a particular fan of the film, writing that it
may be the best film of its kind ever made.
Variety wrote that it
validates the entire concept of remakes. This new version of Don Siegel's 1956 cult classic not only matches the original in horrific tone and effect, but exceeds it in both conception and execution.
Yeah.
I agree with both of those.
Yeah.
Both of those reviews.
Siskel and Ebert both gave it thumbs up on their show at the movies, but wondered aloud why the movie was made at all.
Why was it made at all?
In Ebert's written review, I didn't include this because I figured we'd talk about it for 30 minutes, but he actually commented on Pauline Kael's review in his review. He gave it 2.5 out of 4 stars, so he didn't dislike the movie, but he called her lauding it preposterous. Like just literally calling out Pauline Kael in the middle of his review.
Why?
I don't know.
He's a weird duck, man. He is an odd duck. And some of the stuff that he loves is bizarre, and some of the stuff that he doesn't. Because 2.5 is not a good. It's a C.
Yeah,
so
but he didn't hate the movie. He just,
No, but I mean...
Well, she was wrong. I mean, he's wrong.
100% wrong. This is the exact reason to make a remake, because it's so different from the original, and it is so prescient to the times.
Yeah.
It is, to me, the perfect remake.
Exactly. I agree. The movie is now considered...
Gene, or Roger.
Roger. Both of them. Yeah. The movie is now considered to be one of the greatest remakes ever made. Huge cult classic, obviously.
Of course.
It was actually included. I didn't include this either, but it was actually included in the Smithsonian as like movies of... the Library of Congress. The movies of import, it was included.
As it should, because it really is such a great time capsule of the 70s and such an amazing... Just... Genre films never get respect.
Yeah.
Horror films, these kind of films never get respect. And this film deserved respect.
Yeah.
Because it was so well done. Just like, The Thing and all of these movies that are masterpieces. And just because they're genre films shouldn't take away from the fact that they're masterpieces.
No,
Snobbery, snoots.
Yeah,
it's a stupid snoots.
It is.
Snooty snoots.
Due to the success of the movie, of course, they would continue to adapt the novel again and again and again and again.
Again and again and again.
Body Snatchers came out in 1993, directed by Abel Ferrara, starring Gabriel Anwar, Billy Wirth, Terry Kinney, Meg Tilly, Christina Leese, R. Lee Ermey, and Forrest Whitaker. With the inclusion of R. Lee Ermey, I think it's pretty obvious that it takes place on an army base.
That was the problem. My main problem.
This is the funny thing, is that Roger Ebert gave the film 4 out of 4 stars, calling it superior to the first two adaptations because he liked the fact that it was set on an army base.
Yeah, so cool. But for me, and Abel Ferrara is very hit or miss. I give him respect because he's extremely daring filmmaker, and some of his stuff, the Pope of Greenwich Village, but no, the Bad Lieutenant, great movie.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not easy movies to watch, but they're very well done. And when he's firing on all cylinders, great, disturbing, awesome work.
Yeah.
But this made the huge mistake, man, of making it bigger, and bigger isn't always better.
To me, now I haven't seen this yet. I'm going to watch it before the Stepdad show. But to me, setting it in something that literally demands conformity. What's the point?
Right.
Like, your pod people come down, and they're not going to be any different.
Yeah.
It's the same.
And we've seen so many movies with the military fighting aliens. I mean, it's like, what do we care? You know, it's just, it's hackneyed at this point.
Like I said, I haven't seen it, so I will definitely talk about it on the Stepdad show.
I should watch it again. I don't 100% remember it. I don't remember really enjoying it. All I really remember is Gabrielle Anwar and Forrest Whitaker was really great in it. I mean, the performances were good.
Sure.
I do have to see it again because I don't really remember the plot too much.
It was also produced by Robert H. Solo, who still owned the film rights to the original novel. It was actually originally slated for release in the fall of 1993, but Warner Brothers released Body Snatchers to only a few dozen theaters on January 14th, 1994, and consequently its domestic gross was a mere $428,868 from a $13 million budget.
I wonder why they did that.
I think they lost confidence, and that was it.
Well, not according to Roger Ebert.
Yeah. The novel was the inspiration for the 1998 film The Faculty, written by Kevin Williamson, directed by Robert Rodriguez, and starring
Jordana Brewster, Clea Duvall, Laura Harris, Josh Hartnett, Sean Hatoshi, Famke Jensen, Piper Laurie, Bebe Neuwirth, Robert Patrick, Usher, Raymond, also known as Usher, Jon Stewart, and Elijah Wood. I love that movie.
It received mixed reviews, but it made $63.2 million from a $50 million budget. I believe that this is the version of the Body Snatchers that should have been the Body Snatchers, because it is a brilliant movie. And having it set in high school, immediately all of the conformity, all that stuff is already ingrained. And it is such a great movie when all the like weird factions have to come together because they know that this invasion's happening. Like, it's, oh my God, I love that movie so much.
Me too. It is such a great, it's the great high school movie of the 90s. It is the Breakfast Club or whatever, of the 90s. Such a great cast. So well done. Probably Robert Rodriguez's best film, in my opinion.
I would agree.
The kids are real. Like, they really seem like high school kids. And the twist of the Southern girl being the thing. It's just, it's such a fun movie. If you haven't seen it.
Huge crush on her.
Which one? Family?
The blonde.
Oh, yeah. Everybody.
Laura Harris. Harris. Like,
Well, she was designed to be the perfect girl.
I totally bought into it, man. I bought into it.
Yeah, I love that. And Jon Stewart, too, in one of his few acting roles. But he was actually really good in this.
He was great in it.
Yeah. Didn't he get like a pencil in the eye or something?
No, he got his hand cut off with the
paper cutter?
Paper cutter. Because the best part was at the end credits. He's like teaching again, and he races up, and he's just missing like 3 of his fingers, and he's like, all right, guys, next lesson. He's so great. The Invasion was released in 2007, speaking of the exact opposite. It was directed by Oliver Hirschbiegel, written by David Kajganich, and starring Nicole Kidman and Daniel Craig.
Could not tell. I've seen it. I could not tell you a moment of that movie.
I remember seeing this, and I remember not disliking it. I remember thinking that there was definitely something missing from it. Hirschbiegel had directed Downfall, about the last days of Hitler, if you remember that movie.
That's the one where they use the meme all the time.
Yes.
You know, it's
where he's in the bunker, and it's,
And whatever it is, it's like...
It is not an easy movie to watch.
No.
But it is a very satisfying movie to watch.
And they've used that bunker scene to comedic effect for about 15 years.
Yeah.
And to this day, they still use it.
Kajganich is most well known for writing for The Terror, the TV show that is actually now on Netflix, that has like 3 or 4 seasons, I think. Unhappy with the original cut of the film, the studio hired the Wachowskis for additional writing and James McTeague to reshoot some scenes. So they tried to make it better. The movie was critically panned and made $40.2 million from a reported $80 million budget.
Yeah, there was also a time when they were remaking tons of crap, and it was crap. Like The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Remaking
War of the
very
Worlds.
poorly.
Yeah, they were making all of these iconic older movies and trying to update them to the aughts. And
Although, I will say, I did like Spielberg's remake of War of the Worlds.
Okay, I did too. But that was a bad example. But
it was shot well, and that's why.
But I didn't love it. I didn't like Tom Cruise's character. No. I didn't think I thought that he was
could have been
horribly miscast.
Anybody else, yeah.
But I loved Tim Robbins. I thought it was that was the best part of the movie was his creepy performance.
I just love the big epic like destruction scenes. Like that tickles my fancy.
Well, I did too, and I love that stuff. But I think putting Dakota Fanning in a movie with Tom Cruise was a horrible disservice to Tom Cruise, because when an 8-year-old outacts you like 1,000%, it's pretty embarrassing.
That's true.
Tom.
A loose and unofficial adaptation of the Body Snatchers novel came in 2019 with a film called Assimilate. It stars a bunch of young actors from like Disney Channel and all this stuff, and I didn't know any of them, so I didn't include any of their names. It's about a pair of YouTuber friends in Missouri who are bored and discover an alien invasion happening in the woods. It received mixed reviews.
It's cool, though. I like the premise.
It could be interesting. I mean, I haven't watched it. I did. I don't have it. I need to find it somewhere, but I'm curious.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
There also was that TV show Invasion, which I think was in like 2012 or something, that ran for a season or two. But I remember starting watching it and then it being like, wow, this is going to be a slow burn. And just no.
Well, and it's been, like we said, it's been in X-Files and it's been in, what was that Joshua Jackson show? Fringe. It was, I think they had like a Fringe thing with it. I mean, it's a very common conceit.
Yeah.
Because people have realized that really there's nothing more frightening than an invasion within.
Yeah.
The germ warfare, that is more frightening to me than warfare. Like something where you don't know it's coming. It by the time you know, it's too late.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're done for.
And you can't. Yeah. What do you do?
And it was just this is a brilliant telling of that story.
I am sure they're going to readapt it again and again. Yeah. I'm sure it'll happen.
Make it with Kiefer Sutherland.
Seems like every like, the adaptation, the remake time seems to be getting shorter, because between the first and the second, it was like 22 years, and then it was like 15 years, and then it was 14 years. So, like, technically we're due for another adaptation.
Yeah, sci-fi goes in and out of fashion.
Yeah.
It's staying in fashion now because there's just so many good people making sci-fi. But
I mean, honestly, given the last 8 years, I'm really shocked this movie hasn't been made again.
It will be.
I just, given the whole dual reality that is happening in America, like, it's just fascinating.
If you haven't seen this flick,
oh my God, find it.
Yeah.
Find it and watch it.
It is worth it. It is also one that is worthy of being in your collection.
Yes.
If you're putting together your physical media collection.
I think this is going to go on my Christmas wish list this year.
Yeah, me too. Well, if you're going to get it, I don't need to worry about it. But I mean, it's something that seeing it again, it's going to hit the rotation more. Yeah. It's been way too long since I've seen it.
So good. It's rare for me to watch a movie and then immediately be like, I want to sit down and watch that again.
Yeah, and we had such a good time watching it. And it was just, that's the best with this show, is when we rediscover something that we love and it holds up and exceeds our expectations.
Yes.
And this is what this one did. I love this movie. It's one of my favorite, it's probably, my favorite neo-noir.
Yeah.
Sci-fi CH. And we just lost recently the wonderful Donald Sutherland. So watch it just to see him as a young, handsome.
He's so good. He's so good.
Kick-ass government employee.
Health inspector, Well, we'll be back next week. We're going to do Altered States.
Oh, baby.
Our premiere, the debut of William Hurt.
Yes.
I'm super excited to cover this movie. This is the first time I've not seen any of the movies this month, so I'm excited.
Wow.
I know. I'm so in the spooky season, so excited.
This movie I love so much, and it inspired me to do a project in college at my pseudoscience class where we did sensory deprivation tanks. I'll tell the story of
I'm excited to hear about that.
Spending, I think, 8 hours in one of those tanks. But yeah, man, I didn't devolve into a Cro-Magnon. But yeah, all three of these movies are really great, quirky, different, 70s, 80s sci-fi magic, and not sci-fi. Well, I guess
horror, sci-fi-ish, yeah.
Thriller. Wolfen's coming up too, and that's another one and that's the one I'm the most worried about.
Yeah.
My sister and I talk. We've been talking a lot lately, and we talk about Wolfen because we both loved it, but we both haven't seen it in a while.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have Tracy, because Tracy and I have a really weird connection to this movie. So I'm going to ask her to watch it, and then maybe she'll be nice enough to pop in on the Stepdad Show and give us an opinion.
All right.
You'll finally get to hear the voice of the greatest human being in the world, my sister Tracy.
You already hear me. Oh, no.
You're number 2, babe. She's number 1.
All right.
Invasion's coming!
You're next!
Because it is. First, Bernardo Bertolucci. There was all these weird comedies around then. Paul Simon, you know, like California Suite and that kind of thing.
Neil Simon?
That.
Although I would love to see Paul Simon's version.
So fucking tired. Or Neil Simon's California Suite.
So the film received the film received mostly positive notices.
Jordana Brewster. Sorry. Jordana. I'm so tired. We're at the end.
We're almost done.
We're almost done. Come on. We now return you to your regularly scheduled programming. Harry and the Hendersons, already in progress.